Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast right here on the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, brought to you by gamblersworld.net. You have two of the finest that have been around for a long time. And yeah, I'm going to put a star on my forehead. You know, if you don't toot your own horn, nobody else toots it for you. So there you have it. I'm joined by Chip Chirimbes. The guy's a legend. He's an icon.
Yeah.
He's been around for 40 plus years in this business, folks, and doing it awfully successfully. And his performance level hasn't waned whatsoever. Chipper, how are you?
I'm great, but you talk about blowing your own horn. I mean, I feel like Dobbs from F Troop trying to blow that bugle. It hasn't been all that great the last week. You're in and out. At an 0-3 day, you win one, and then you get beat again. And it's been a mixed bag, really.
Yeah, for those
6-1 in baseball, lost 4 in a row. So it's
you lost our crowd of 20, 30, and 40-year-olds when we start mentioning F Troop. So
hey, come on, Agarn was the best.
It's an old sitcom, folks, by the way.
Who says I'm dumb?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, Chipper, the NCAA tournament, we're down to the Final Four, and we were talking off air. We're looking at 2 semifinal matchups we're going to cover today. UConn, Alabama, and North Carolina State and Purdue. And, I mentioned to you the rarity of these two lines in this game. I mean, since the 2013 tournament, we between 2013 and 2023, which is 10 tournaments in all, because we eliminate the COVID year, there's only been 3 times where a team has been a 9-point favorite in a Final Four game, 9-point or greater favorite in a Final Four game. And here we have 2 of them in the same year. Real rarity.
But, Ross, I could understand it with having a 10 or 11 seed like NC State against the number 1 seed like Purdue. But the way this Connecticut has just been bombing everybody the last 2 years now, we're talking about in tournament action. And again, they're 4-0, averaging wins by 28 points. So the number being this high is justified, I think, against Alabama, who, they were 16-15 coming into this streak here. So you can see why they're getting generous points too.
Yeah. Well, UConn, you mentioned this year and last year, 10-0 straight up in ATS in the NCAA tournament since last year. Obviously, they won the title last year and winning every time. All 10 games, they won by double-digit margins. And Chip just mentioned an average margin of victory by 28 points per game this year.
I misspoke. I have to tell you, I misspoke because they were 25-11 on the year. I was talking about covering. They've covered the last 4 in a row after. So still, the margin is big, like you said. The line is big, and deservedly so. I mean, how do you stop this Connecticut team right now?
Yeah, and Alabama, like Chip alluded to, 28-11 straight up, 16-15 against the spread he was touching upon. So to clarify that before some of you jump all over them and say, Chip, they're not 16-15 going into the Final Four.
Feeble now, I mean, things are happening now.
Come on, man, give us a break once in a while. Don't forget to give us a like on our video today. It goes a long way with our sponsor at gamblersworld.net. By the way, folks, not only myself and Chip, but 8 other great handicappers over at gamblersworld.net. It's there where we guarantee our picks. If you don't win, you don't make a profit on any single game or multi-game daily pick or subscription plan of 30 days or fewer. We will credit your account back the exact amount that you paid on your package you purchased. So great stuff there. I mean, it's not a sign of weakness. It's just your assurance and our confidence that we want you to stick around for a while, and our confidence that we can make you money over the long haul. So there you have it. In any event, also Major League Baseball is in full bloom right now. And we got a couple nice Major League Baseball specials going on right now. $3.49 will get you any handicapper's MLB picks right through the All-Star break. So for those of you who say, well, you know what? After the All-Star break, I like to focus in on football. After the All-Star break, I'm on vacation, and then it's all about football. Well, there's your opportunity. We set it up nicely for you. $3.49. Whoever you choose, you'll get all their MLB picks right through the All-Star game. For those of you who want to make a long-term commitment, $6.99 will get you the entire Major League Baseball season right through the World Series. So some great specials there to take advantage of. I know myself last year, I ended up number 1 at the site in Major League Baseball, and I am 3-1 to start this year. I'm treading lightly early on with Major League Baseball. I'm a data type of guy, data driven when it comes to handicapping my games. And the more data I get, the more I start to dabble in a little more. And also going back to last year, 63-36 since August the 4th with my Major League Baseball picks, which is good for 63%. And like Chipper, I don't give out money line favorites of greater than -140, reasonably sized money line favorites, totals. First 5 inning plays I use a lot now that I didn't used to use before because of the specialization in the game. But Chipper, enough about me. What about you?
Well, in baseball, it's a long grind, and like you said, stats and information are such a big part of it. What also has come into play, Ross, aside from the first 5 inning bet, which is really, really, you've got very good reason and a lot of support as to why to do it, yanking pitchers out so early nowadays.
Yeah.
But also run line games now, because of the way teams are able to just put offenses together, and they're such heavy favorites. There's a lot of bad teams out there, Ross, teams that just can't compete, and you can give them 2 runs a game. And that used to be a no-no. In our business, if a line was 1.5, sure enough, the team would win 2-1. So, you got to tread lightly when you're dealing with the run line, and we don't like dealing with those big, heavy favorites. Otherwise, we're not going to lay out, like you said, $1.45.
I mean, we're not going to try to steal a win. We're not going to ask you to do something we wouldn't do ourselves. We're not going to try to pad our records,
And Ross, when people say they're trailing, they're behind the bookmaker at the end of the week, and they're trying to get even, and they look at that game, which is say a 2-1 favorite, $1.80, $1.60, because it is the most attractive. It's the heaviest favorite out there, so you're drawn toward it, and that's a wrong time to sit and try to make that move to catch up, and you're laying twice as much. So you got to be careful with these big numbers, because they don't pay off in the end. They really don't.
Well, basically, that situation you just described, it's a pick that's made on emotion, right? And you don't want to do that, because what you're describing, Chipper, is a guy who's down money at the end of the week, and he's desperate, and he's looking for what he thinks is a proverbial lock, because they're mine, and not going to 2-1 or even $1.80, and that's not a pick you would make early in the week, So you got to ask yourself this: are you betting with your head or betting with your heart or emotion when you get into those types of situations? I'm glad you brought that up, Chipper. In terms of the 5 inning picks that I've been making of late, I don't know if you've dabbled into those, but yeah, I mean, we're into an age of specialization. We've been in that age for probably the last 5 years in Major League Baseball. We've seen more and more now that, I saw them pull a Yankee pitcher out the other day who had pitched very well after 4 2/3 innings. They pitched him, that kid, Gill or whatever. I can't, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, even though it's only 3 letters. But in any event, they pulled him out after 4 2/3 with just 1 man on, and he had been pitching well. And it's, he got to the 85 pitch count, Chip. And it didn't matter. In the old days, the manager would give the kid a benefit of the doubt and say, hey, let's try to get 1 more out, and he qualifies for a win. Anyway, go ahead.
And, Ross, I think one of the biggest surprises this year isn't that a no-hitter was thrown, but actually that the starting pitcher pitched a no-hitter for 9 innings.
Yeah.
And it's an oddity nowadays. Or the days of Bob Gibson and the Drysdale completing 31 games in a year and 28 games are long gone. And you get double digits by one of these pitchers now, and they're headed to the Hall of Fame. Double-digit complete games in the season.
Yeah, so, exactly.
The Yankees last year removed Cole so often when he had the leads. He won the Cy Young, granted, but they blew so much there because their analytics say that the next 3 innings he's not going to do as well. But you know what, Ross? He's still going to do better than the guy you're bringing in, because the guy you're bringing in isn't as good as your original starter in the first place. So I'm old school when it comes to that. I'd rather, but you have valid reasons to go to the 5 inning bets now. I think that's a really. it's a good way to make some money. I think you don't have to worry about your top guy blowing the game and the end. You know, in the
And
second
also,
half.
you're eliminating the bullpens out of the equation, right, Chip? If you got a great starting pitcher and a shaky bullpen, and you feel like you have a favorable matchup in terms of one starting pitcher over the other, but you don't have that same advantage if when and if it gets to the bullpens, and it's usually when these days. So it's another way to. And you mentioned the run line too, and then I thank you for being patient, folks. We will get to our college basketball Final Four picks, but one final note on that run line that you had mentioned that, there's a lot of bad teams out there. I think it's been more applicable to me where I very seldom used to use a run line favorite in a National League game because there was no designated hitter,
right?
So since the National League has implemented the use of the designated hitter, it takes on a whole new meaning in terms of run lines and also in terms of National League totals. Before it was very uncommon to see a National League total be 9 or higher. Now you're seeing it with regularity. So in any event, Chip, all right, let's get to the matter at hand. UConn in Alabama. UConn, like we just touched upon, they're on a tremendous roll over the last 2 seasons, and they look unbeatable at this particular moment in time, but never say never. They are laying a big number here, 11.5. The total in this game, 160.5. Very surprised myself that Alabama has reached this point. I said early on, I just can't back a team that plays the kind of defense that Alabama has and just depends on outscoring the opposition.
Yep.
They haven't been great defensively, but they've been much better defensively in the NCAA tournament than they have been during the regular season. Anyway, your take, buddy.
Well, you're right about this number 1 scoring team in the nation, averaging 90.6 points. But Ross, their defense may have improved, but how much? They're ranked 353. You know how many teams there are in NCAA? They're
362. Yeah, so
the points allowed. So they're gonna. If Connecticut would rather play a slower pace, and they're looking to be. But they can hang out offensively. They can score. Connecticut can put it up against you. Time these 2 teams met in Alabama in November of 22. The Tide were a 2-point favorite. Connecticut went in and won by 15 points, 82-67. The total on that game, Ross, was 148, and they scored 149. Now, you tell me the total on this game is 12 points higher? I'm not going to play the under here. I would play the over. I know that Alabama's gone over 8 of the last 10 times they played, and just opposed to them is UConn, who has won their last 10 games. They'll go 9-1 against a number in those 10. But they've gone under 8 of their last 10. So those 2 sort of balance out. But I just think Connecticut has enough offensively to push this number over the total. The bookmaker, who's not our friend, as you said before, is giving you an opportunity to take this individual matchup 12 points less than what it was the last time they met. And I'm gonna go with this on a neutral floor. I think it goes over the point. I think Connecticut's going to be hard to deal with. It's difficult to take Alabama here because of the way Connecticut's been playing. And our instinct, Ross, you and I know, and have been in this business a long time, is not to lay 12 and a half points in a championship round of games. So Connecticut is either that much better than everyone else or Alabama has enough to catch them. I don't know yet, but I'm going to sit and play the over here.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Connecticut, Alabama over 160.5. Alabama is very good at speeding teams up, even if they don't prefer to play that pace. I almost compare it to like a big puncher in boxing. And I've used this analogy time and time again. They're willing to take a few to land that one big punch. And Alabama will give up a lot of easy transition baskets. They'll give up a lot of easy baskets in trying to speed the tempo up of the game by pressuring their opponents. And along the way, too, they foul a lot. They give up. Their opponents have got to the free throw line amongst the most in college basketball this year. Connecticut, on the other hand, you make good points, Chip. The thing is, they prefer the slower tempo. But this is a UConn team, to me, that's talented enough to beat you in any which way you want to play. You know,
Ross,
so
they're fundamentally, they're so sound, and they're always willing to make that. They don't take bad shots, and they're always willing to make that final pass. That you think a guy's going in, and he drops it to someone else who stuffs it. They're very well coached. I think that's obvious. So
yeah, their assist to field goals made percentage is extremely high. To your point, and I could see. I mean, again, Nate Oates has come right out and said at the end of the year when his team was under a lot of criticism because they had not done well down the final stretch of the season. Matter of fact, they went into the NCAA tournament. I think they were 5-6 or something like that in their last 11 games. Don't quote me exactly, but somewhere in that area, right?
Well, they were 0-4 against the number before going into the tournament, the last 4 games of the regular season and NCAA tournament. But I mean, ACC, they're in the ACC, right? So SEC. Yeah, I'm getting my teams mixed up here thinking of that NC State. How did they ever get there? You see that thing on Valvano last night? It was great. All right.
Yeah. It's still, when I watch his speech on the ESPYs,
I cried for 4 hours watching that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, every time you think you have things tough, you need to turn on that video of that speech, and it will inspire you. And if it doesn't, then you don't have a pulse.
I agree.
So, all right, let me get to my game. It's NC State and Purdue. And right now, Purdue is a 9-point favorite. And the total in this game is 146. NC State has captured the hearts of the nation. And they've been labeled as that popular term of being a Cinderella team. And rightfully so. I mean, this is a team that was 17-14 during regular season action. But since the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament began, they are now 9-0 straight up and 8-1 against the spread. And that includes in the 9 games, they've been an underdog 7 times. So obviously 7-0 straight up in ATS as an underdog during postseason play. Yet they're a sizable 9-point underdog in this matchup. And to me, I know that Purdue's the number 1 seed, but based on how much NC State has been making a lot of people money out there, or the enticement of how much money NC State has made since the postseason began, I think we're going to see a lot more action on the underdog here than people would think. And I'm pretty sure that's how the numbers will shake out. As a matter of fact, the site that I've been using for years shows 80% or more of the money and the volume of bets going on NC State to this point. Yet that line hasn't moved. Okay, so which tells me the sports books are saying, okay, there's nothing within that 80% on NC State, whether it be volume of plays or more specifically the money that we deem to be sharp money. Right. That's the way I look at it. And again, since 2017, an NCAA tournament number 1 seed that's playing either in a regional final, a national semifinal, or a national final in the NCAA tournament, and they're a favorite of 7-14 points, has gone 5-0 straight up in ATS. And they won those games by an average of 18.8 points per game. Now, I know a lot of you out there will say, who cares? NC State's red hot right now. That's more important than what you just named. Well, it just shows. I mean, I've said a couple things now, and we discussed a couple things now that shows that a favorite of this size at this point of the NCAA tournament is rare. So when that happens, it seems like it's favoring it seems like it'll entice the underdog action with general public betting, and the results show that the higher seed or the number 1 seed or the heavy favorites do much better than people would think about. Analytically, Purdue is just a better team too. Right. I mean, we talk about analytics all the time. I like to use KenPom a lot as part of my handicapping arsenal. They're the better rebounding team. They're the better 3-point shooting team. As a matter of fact, they're either number 1 or number 2 in 3-point shooting percentage in the country. Their assist to field goal is made is much higher than NC State. And we talked about that with UConn. And I just think the cream rises to the top in this matchup here, Chip. I'm going to lay the big number, Purdue -9 over NC State.
You know what? I see a couple of storylines here. Well, to start, one thing, this kid for NC State playing in the middle, his name's Clark, I believe. He's a beast. This kid, where was he all season long? Because now he's forcing his way around Russ. I'm wondering how he's going to do against the big guy in that matchup. But the storyline here that I like is 3 years ago, Virginia was a 1 seed and lost in the first round to a 16 team. Last year, Purdue was a 1 seed and lost to a 16 seed. And Virginia won it the following year. Maybe it's Purdue's time this year, though they're probably going to have to get by Connecticut. So, I sort of lean toward them here just from the sentiment and from that storyline. But that kid inside and the mojo that the Wolfpack have right now really has to make you take a step back and look at this game. Purdue, they've had their dominant points, but the people have been pretty competitive against them for the most part for the year. 21-15 against the number, which is pretty good considering the kind of points they were laying all year, Ross. Really tough call here. And I like you, I sort of lean toward the favorite right now.
Yeah, we lost my video. So I'm sorry about that, folks. Technical problems, but you're still seeing Chip's handsome face there. In any event, I think you're referring to DJ Burns, the big man from North Carolina State, the big heavy set kid.
Yeah, his name Burns. I thought it was Clark. I got confused with Caitlin.
Okay. DJ Burns, who's had a tremendous tournament. He had 28 in the regional final in NC State's win over Duke. Here's the thing. Going up against Zach Edey is a whole different story. He's been able to muscle guys that are his size in the 6'11 range, 6'10 range, but they're not 7'4 and weigh as much as he does, like Zach Edey does. So I'm not seeing him having the field day that he normally has in these types of games. And I think a big thing here, the difference in this game is Purdue's ability to knock down 3-point shots at a high percentage, and is going to make a major difference here as well. So, all right, our official picks here. I'm taking Purdue -9 over NC State, and Chipper likes UConn and Alabama. He says, I don't care how high that number is. We're going over the total. So, Chip, again, you could find Chipper over at gamblersworld.net. Anything you want to mention in terms of what you might have lined up for the weekend here, Chip?
Well, my favorite tournament of all time, the NIT, is playing tonight in Indianapolis, and I got a great matchup with Indiana State and Seton Hall, and there's a big difference between playing this final in Indianapolis as opposed to Madison Square Garden as far as the Pirates are concerned. But I've got a big-time megabuck release on that game at the website. Follow the buy links, and you'll end up smiling before the night's over.
Yeah, ironically, Seton Hall, they would have been playing in close proximity at the Garden.
Yeah.
Now it's being played at Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, which is the home of the Butler Bulldogs, which, by the way, is where the movie Hoosiers was recorded. And Terre Haute is where the campus of Indiana State is. And that's 76 miles from Indianapolis, or an hour and 15-minute ride. And if you watch the semifinal the other night, it was really resembled the home court advantage for
the crowd picked them up.
Indiana State, no doubt. And we talked about, even in the NCAA tournament, you can't eliminate looking at who may have the larger throng of fans there based on the proximity to the location, or teams that actually travel well.
Especially if they're underdogs, and they're playing the Goliath. So,
in this particular instance, Indiana State is a favorite, and I have a pick on that game, folks. I have the winning side in that game tonight in the NIT and college basketball on a 19-12 run. So that's around 61%. And Chipper, he's a big game player, man. His mega buck plays are what he calls the A play. Keep an eye on those folks, because over the years, he's well over 60% with those plays. And he's been doing it for a minute, like over 40 years a minute. Anyway, Chipper, always a pleasure, my man. And you'll be back with us next week, and look forward. We'll be talking either NBA or Major League Baseball at that time. And I will be back tomorrow on our live edition, as I'll be joined by Jesse Schule and Sean Higgs. But until the next time, for Chip Chirimbes and Ross Benjamin, take care and God bless, folks.